Over 35 million people are expected to take a cruise this year for their vacation, and that number is only going to increase as cruising continues to skyrocket in popularity. And as you can imagine, there's going to be a percentage of those cruisers that are going to be new and inexperienced cruisers that could make a mistake that might just ruin their cruise. However, have no fear, because for today's video, I'm going to give you 10 common mistakes that first-time cruisers make. That way you can avoid them. Sailing straight into it, for number one, this is probably the biggest mistake that I see first-time cruisers make, and that's trying to book the cheapest room or cabin or cruise that they could possibly find. And I have to caveat this by doing no research whatsoever. We all, of course, understand, myself included, the idea of simply just wanting to get away for a little bit, get off the grid, and go relax on a cruise. And of course, maybe play some bingo and eat as much ice cream as you would like. However, sometimes in life, it is true that you do get what you paid for. There are people that will try to go on a cruise and they will not see what type of cruise they are dealing with. Somebody likes a Carnival cruise that wants to party may not be the same person that likes to go relax with, let's say, maybe a more quiet, mature crowd on like a Celebrity, for example. When it comes to the cabins in general, there are people that like an inside cabin because typically for them, they believe in quantity over quality. Meaning, if you get a cheaper inside cabin with no windows and balcony or breathtaking views, it will give you the opportunity to potentially book more cruises down the road. The problem here is that for some cruisers, while they may have chosen the budget-friendly option in their inside cabin, their sleep schedule could be thrown off due to the fact that there is no sunlight reaching the room, which then could unfortunately cause you to miss some events, maybe even an excursion, and ruin your cruise. But again, this comes down to personal preference. You could also get something known as a guaranteed cabin. Let's say you were looking for a nice balcony, you found it at a reasonably decent rate comparable to the other balconies. However, you could run into something known as an obstructed view, where something like a lifeboat or some type of metal beam may be in the way, keeping you from those breathtaking views, or even the exact location that you wanted on your cruise. My advice to all of you is to simply do your due diligence. Do the research on the ship that you want to sail on, the itinerary that you want, the suite or room that you want to book. Talk to your friends that are experienced in cruising, or talk to your local travel agent to ensure that you have the best vacation possible. For number two, a big common mistake that first-time cruisers make is not budgeting for their cruise. Unfortunately, for a lot of first-time cruisers, whenever they book their cruise via online or through their travel agent, they think all of it's taken care of and they're going to have the time of their lives without having to worry about anything. And while that may be somewhat true, they do have to put the money aside to make sure things are taken care of, such as your infamous drink package, your Wi-Fi, your excursions, the tips or gratuities on board. When it comes to that alone, that's something a lot of people overlook because they can either pay their gratuities prior to the cruise, they can pay it during the cruise, and there are some people out there that turn off the gratuities. I'm not here to judge, but you have to look at other factors such as even on board collecting things like memorabilia. If you take a photo, you want to be able to pay for that. If you have kids with you and family, there are rides and experiences on board that may cost anywhere between $5 to $10 a pop. And as you can imagine, that could add up very, very quickly. Number three, not getting travel insurance. This is a big one. And unfortunately, for the past couple years, time and time again, we have seen horror stories of people that have come into some cruise nightmares due to not having travel insurance. This is something that honestly, I believe that every single cruiser should be mindful of, because this could affect you prior to your cruise or even during your cruise. You literally never know what can happen during your cruise or even prior. For example, you could be flying in the day of your cruise, which I would completely advise against, and I will talk about that later on. Let's say you are flying Frontier and your flight gets canceled, and now those thousands of dollars that you have spent on your cruise because you don't have insurance goes bye-bye. Or even during your cruise, you can have some type of medical emergency, a heart attack, or you fall down the stairs. Now you have to be medevaced off the ship to the nearest land hospital so that you can get the treatment that you need. And since you don't have insurance, it's going to cost you anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 for that helicopter to come pick you up. Piggybacking off of what I just said, for number four, you do not want to arrive in the city in which you are sailing out of the day of your cruise. I don't know how many times I have seen horror stories of people deciding the day of their cruise to fly in, and that flight gets gets canceled or there is a delay, and just like that, they miss their cruise and they even lose out on the money that they paid for the cruise because, well, they didn't have any insurance. This one is obviously cut and dry, and there are many cruisers that can tell you this. Do not be that crazy person. I know I am sometimes. There are days that I do fly into the city in which I'm sailing out of the day of the cruise, but I guess my situation is maybe a little bit different, but not really. Thankfully, I have not missed a cruise, but I wouldn't advise anybody to do this. You should always arrive to the city in which you are sailing out of at least a day prior to your cruise. That way you can get settled in. Maybe you have some jet lag that you're dealing with. You can kind of brush off all of that frustration from your regular life and get ready for your vacation. It's just the best option. I would advise everybody going on a cruise to do this. For number 5, a common mistake that I see first-time cruisers do is either overpack or underpack for their cruise, and both have their problems and complications. Should you decide to overpack, technically there's nothing wrong with it. It's just going to cause a little bit more frustration maybe at the airport, getting to the city in which you're sailing out of, and also unpacking your bag once you arrive into your cabin, which could cause some complications at the end. When you decide that you want to pack and you've had one too many drinks, it's going to take a little bit longer for you to pack up all of your gear. However, if you decide to underpack, you never know what you can miss out on. Make sure you pack multiple pairs of underwear and swimwear and formal wear for all of those theme nights and for those special occasions when you decide to go outside and have a good time during your cruise, because who knows, you might meet your husband, your wife, your mistress, who knows, on your next cruise. Number 6, not booking your excursions in advance. I do completely understand that whenever you go on a cruise, there are so many options and companies to choose from when you are thinking about excursions, to the point to where you can get a little confused and you start to procrastinate and you just try to find something once you're on board, and that usually doesn't work out the way that you might want, because by the time you decide to book your excursion, it could be sold out, it could be overpriced, or it could be an option to where there were many options and now you got to settle for the one that everybody is now on, and you don't feel like you are getting an exclusive opportunity or experience. My advice is simple. Whenever you book your cruise, you should also look at what excursions are available and at least get an idea of what you want. Also look at other options. There are people that like to book with the cruise lines. Personally, I do believe in looking at every option. For example, check out Viator. They may offer the same exact excursion that you want at a better deal of a price and without you being stuck with everybody on this cruise ship, and that way you can get somewhat of a more exclusive experience whenever you decide to go on your excursion. Number 7, ignoring the cruise schedule on board. Now this is an important one because many people out there do go on a cruise for many different reasons. Some go to gamble, some go to play bingo, some go to hang out at the pool all day and have a nice drink the entire time they're on their cruise. However, it is important to keep an eye on the schedule, especially on sea days, because there may be events and things going on that you absolutely do not want to miss. There are times that the cruise line is giving away free cruises, they're giving away money, or you're missing big fat guys that are doing belly flop competitions over at the pool deck, or even the sexiest man competition. It's one of my favorites personally. Number 8, not understanding how tips or gratuities work for your cruise. Now, this is naturally something that is a confusing topic for a lot of people out there, and honestly, there is no right or wrong way to do it. There are a lot of people oftentimes that will prepay their tips or gratuities prior to their cruise. There are cruise lines out there that don't have any tips or gratuities, like Virgin Voyages, for example, where it's all included. There are people that will turn their auto gratuities off, that are automatically taken out of their bank account via their debit card that they put on file, and pay only the crew members that they come face to face with. My advice is just to look into how your gratuities work prior to your cruise, because anything, and I mean anything, from the type of cabin that you are staying in to the cruise line you are sailing with, will determine how much you're going to pay in gratuities either prior to your cruise or on a daily charge to your room via the card that you have on file. Number 9, not turning off your roaming for your cell phone during your cruise. I can honestly say that as somebody that has been a victim of this and so many others, it is something that I would advise everybody do. There are some cell phone providers out there that offer cellular at sea, where you can, for a fee, make your phone calls and text messages. However, there are so many other options. You have Wi-Fi available to you for purchase purchase with different tier levels and of course different prices. You have iMessage available for you if you have an iPhone for some cruise lines without having to actually pay for the Wi-Fi. Some cruise lines even have an in-house app in which you can chat to other people while on board. And believe it or not, there are even eSIMs coming out right now where you can install it and be able to talk on your phone with just that one-time charge that you pay for that eSIM. The advice that I would give here is to simply plan for how you are going to talk to your family and friends that are at home not enjoying your cruise, or how you're not going to talk to them prior to your cruise. That way you don't have to worry about any insane charges once your cruise has concluded, because trust me when I tell you, there have been people that have incurred thousands of dollars in roaming fees just off of a 1-week cruise, and I can imagine it was probably a nightmare that they wish never happened. Finally, last but certainly not least, for number 10, a big mistake that first-time cruisers make is missing out on first day perks. And yes, they absolutely do exist. Whenever you get on board a cruise ship, there are a lot of people that go straight to their room or go straight to the pool area or go straight to go eat something, which is totally fine. However, what you have to understand is that that is an opportunity to get the deals of a lifetime. Maybe there is some excursion that you want to book. Maybe there is a spa package that you want. Maybe there is an offering of some kind of deal for a booking or a show or a dining option that you probably will not get at any other point during the cruise, because it'll either be sold out or that offer simply will not any longer be available. Anyway, those are my 10 common mistakes that first-time cruisers make. That way all of you can hopefully avoid them. I hope you guys found this video informative and enjoyable and maybe a little entertaining. However, I could always make a part 2, but if you guys see any other tips that I missed here in this video, please feel free to add them in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as usual, I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.